All right, kiddos, so now we're going to do the demonstration for the mouth. And what you need to worry about, what you need to look at here are the instructions. We're going to go over these briefly. You've got one page, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then I've got some examples to show some variety. For mouth, I gave you big enough spaces to draw, so you've actually got 2 sheets. The first sheet has 6, the other one has 4, 10 total mouths. Each worth 2 points, 20 total points, okay? Make sure that you're showing me variety, just like before. So let's briefly go over these instructions. Generally speaking, you want to start with the guidelines so that you know how to place it. I have the nose up here and I have guidelines. You can't hardly read it, unfortunately, because of the copy. But when we're doing the guidelines, the line that is halfway between your nose and your chin, it's actually the bottom of your bottom lip, all right? So all of this big honkin' space right here, this is all chin. So under the nose, you're going to lightly draw a horizontal line between the bottom lip line and your nose. So right in between, going closer to your lip line, you're going to draw another horizontal. It's this line right here. You can barely see it, guys. I'm sorry. Here's your bottom lip line, center of your face. Here's your chin. Okay? You're going to have to look closely, and you may need to trace them. So this is your lower lip line. This line and this line are the same line, and you're going to draw this new line. Then you're going to add curves to it. Now this is called a Cupid's bow, right up here where there's muscles attached. You just kind of add a little bit of a lump in the middle and just angle that around. So you're using this as a guideline to get to here. Then what you're going to do is you're going to draw the muscles. There are 4 main muscles. There's actually more, but we're going to go with these 4 main muscles in the lip area. You have a pillow on top and bottom, left and right, that don't necessarily touch right at the middle. Okay, so draw those 4 muscles. Those are the shapes. That's where you're going to get the most of your variety. Your next step is to kind of draw the lines around them. Use those muscles, use those pillows that you just drew as a guideline. You usually have a little bit of an indent, not always, but a little bit of an indent between the muscles down here, more of an indent here. It's called the Cupid's bow. Why is it called a Cupid's bow? Because if you turn that bad boy on its side, it looks like this, bow and arrow. Okay? So it's called the Cupid's bow. Make sure you get that. Some people have a really pronounced one. Some people have a really pointed one. Some have none, hardly at all. You have to look at your subject, just like always. Now, when you're shading your lips, it's actually really easy. The upper lip is going to always be in shadow. Okay? The reason for that is in profile, here's your nose with your nostril. Here is your upper lip right here with your mouth line. Here is your lower lip and your chin. This area is pointed downwards. Because it's pointed down, the light hits up here, and this area is in shadow. And then this area will be lit, and this area will be in shadow. Okay, so when you draw the shadows for the mouth, your upper lip, just put a general darkness, make it just a little bit darker than your bottom lip, and you're going to create this sort of coming off of these lines to create this shadow down here. Okay, you add more detail by following where those pillows were. Following the edges of those pillows, add some curvature into the lip, and then blend it out. The last step is curved lines lightly. I cannot express that enough, guys. If you draw hard lines on here, it's going to look like you've painted on zebra lips. Please don't do that. Light lines following the contour. These are cross contour lines, and they give texture to your lips. All right? The last step is really just about adding some additional dark areas, blending your shadows a little bit more, expressing them out. So it's really just about working that in, and also maybe adding a slight little shadow up in here, because you have 2 muscles that actually attach up into your nostrils, and the lines kind of connect there. You can feel them if you touch your face. Don't actually touch your face with graphite on there. And remember, you have 10 squares to fill in. I don't have a label on this one, but it's the only one that's got 4 boxes on it. You have 6 on one side, 4 on the other, 10 total mouths, okay? That's what you have to have turned in. That is going to be due on Monday with the noses. Noses and mouths on Monday. Yay, it's exciting. So now we draw. Excuse me. So let's go in here, and we're going to follow the same steps. So we're going to kind of assume that I have guidelines, and assume I've already started. So we have our nose up here, and I'm just going to really quickly draw in a light nose spot just so I have it. I have a lot more practice than you, so shush. So I have a quick little nose right here, just kind of put onto the paper for the sake of it being there. You're going to have your nose line when you draw the faces out. You'll have your center line when you draw the faces out. You're going to have your chin line. And then you're going to have a line right in between the nose line and the chin line right about here. And that's going to be the bottom of your lower lip. Yes, you guys have a lot more chin than you like to draw. So once you have your guidelines down, and I would recommend actually doing this every time because you guys need more practice on your noses anyways. All right, once you have your chin line down, you're going to draw a line right in between your nose and the bottom of your lower lip. You figure out how high you want it to be. Obviously, you don't want it on your nose. It's going to look redonkulous. Come down a little bit. You're going to draw a horizontal line just past your nostrils, right about there. That's where your mouth opening is going to be. So you've got your upper lip and your lower lip. Okay, the very next step is we're going to give some character to this line. You're going to add this little section right here in the middle. It's just a bump in your line. Okay, you can bring these lines up or down if you want. You can leave them exactly where they are if you want, but that's now your mouth line. All we did was add a bump and bring that back out, so we can erase that little bit of a gap right there. Our next step is to add the muscles, the pillows, if you would. Okay, you're going to have a round shape here, and you can make these shapes any size you want. I will show you the variety in a little bit. A rounded shape here. You're going to have a fatter round shape here. Remember, that's supposed to be the bottom of your lower lip, so try to bring it close to that. It doesn't have to be exact. This is where we get the variety. These are just general guidelines. If you're off a little bit, it's fine because people aren't all perfectly in this guide, okay? Don't think it's got to be perfect. All right, so we added our pillows. Our next step will be to use these to guide our lines. Now we're going to start here with our Cupid's bow. This person's got a slightly more pronounced one. And we're going to curve these lines back down. Now, you don't have to connect the lines. You just bring them close. Bring them close. Okay, this line right here, I'm going to add this little bit of an arch. Just a smaller one in between. And bring that lip back up. We're going to go ahead, for the sake of visual, and erase those pillows a little bit. I've still got hints of the lines because I'm going to use them later, but this at least gives that. Now extend your mouth line just a little bit beyond. I went too far with my lips. You usually want to leave a little bit of mouth line outside of the lip area. Okay? Next thing that we do is shading. So we're going to add just the general dark. Try to make it nice and even without smudging it with your fingers. I'm not going to use my fingers this time. Alright. Darken your upper lip. Even out your tones, if you will. You're going to add a slight shadow here underneath this lip. It usually comes down from here, boxes out, and down from here. So go along your lip line, box that out. It's going to have a slight curve because your chin is kind of rounded, right? It's more of a bump than it is anything else. I want to say we're the only mammals that has an actual chin. I have to look that up and verify, but okay. General shading. This is just the start. Now we're going to use where those pillows were, okay? We want to curve around the outside of that pillow, around the inside. This is why you want to leave a little hint of those lines, okay? You notice I'm following where that curve was. That's where the pillow was. That's where my curve is. That's where my pillow was. That's where the curve is. Come back in here and add some shadows. Darken that up a little bit. You will eventually blend that back down, okay? You're going to do the same thing on the bottom. You're going to round out the tails of those little pillows that you drew. Round out the tails. Now your upper lip, like I showed you a little bit ago, your upper lip goes over your lower lip slightly. Okay? Because it goes over, it's going to cast a little bit of a shadow. So we're just going to put a slightly darker shadow right here along that area. Whee! And this, again, this is just the quick version, the easy version. As you get older and you start practicing this more, you're going to notice there's more detail. You're going to notice there's more stuff, and you'll push these even further. This is just a simplified version of this stuff. Okay, Okay, and we're going to darken up these shadows up here. Now there's a little bit of shadow down here on the bottom. A little bit of shadow down here on the bottom. You'll notice I left that little bit of a curve in there. Pull all those shadows out. Okay, and this is our general, and the next step, pretty much the last step, is we're going to soften our shadows, making them not so prominent, making them not so drastic. Okay, we can do that with a pencil. You guys tend to use your fingers. I know I did yesterday with the nose. But we're going to soften up those shadows and let it kind of be a little bit more gradual. And then we're going to draw these really light contour lines. And they don't have to go all the way up and down. You want to make sure you're switching directions on them too. Okay, but it creates a little bit of a texture. It creates a little bit of a contour. Because you guys, I know you guys are all like, here, let me put some more chapstick on. You know, you've got these ridges in your lips. It's actually folding skin so that you can do those giant smiles and funky faces that you like to do. All right, we're going to erase out some highlight areas. Girls who apply lipstick, y'all know that sometimes you've got these little shinies you want to keep, right? So bring them back. And that's the basics of lips. Okay, this is why they work. This is how you draw them simply. Now, we're going to do variety because you need to have 10 different lips. So the fastest way to create 10 different lips is by having various mouth lines. So let's draw, I'm going to do like 5. Let's do 2, 3, 4, or 3, I can count, 4, 5. I'm not going to worry about the nose. I'm not going to worry about how it's proportioned to all that right this moment. I just want different lips. So we have these mouth lines. So we can change the angle. We can put in a pointed center line and curve that out and kind of a, so it almost looks like one of those little birds that you drew when you were smaller. You can have really tight. You can have that be really broad. Okay. You can have lips that are downturned. So we'll have these points, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually pull my lips down underneath my original mouth line. Okay. You can have some where you barely see it at all. It's so subtle. It's almost like that center little line's not there at all. I mean, and then you can have like really broad ones with the lips turned down. Lots of different mouth lines. Okay. Another way to add variety is going to be in these pillows. So you can have really, really thin pillows. We're going to go really, really thin pillows. Whee. You can have really, really broad pillows. Like here's a really big one. Whee, that's big pillows. You try to want to keep try to keep like a gap between the uppers. This one I kind of messed up, but let's clean that up a little bit. And have the bottom ones kind of touch. All right. You can have middle. And they don't have to match. You don't have to have big ones on top and big ones on the bottom, or little ones on top and little ones on the bottom. You can have really big ones on the bottom and then have little bitty ones on the top. And vice versa. You can have really big ones on the top. Again, try to leave that gap. And a little bitty one on the bottom. Well, smaller. Maybe not little bitty, but definitely smaller. Smaller ones on the bottom. And they don't even have to stop. Another place you can have variety is where you start them. You can start them inwards. Okay, so I've got mouth line way out here. I'm going to leave at least a good fingertip right here. I'm going to add my pillows. There's actually technical terms for these muscles. You can leave a bigger gap or a smaller gap. Let me make that gap smaller right here, just for the sake. You can have a wider gap, and then you can have, you know, almost a little bit of overlap here on these. See how they overlap a little bit? And you've got all these different mouth shapes. Now we're going to use those mouth shapes to kind of guide our outlines. So we have our Cupid's bow that we're going to draw. We're going to draw this lip, connect that with a slight curve upwards, and then back up in. Okay, and do the same thing here. This one's broader. It's got a wider and more subtle. Okay, this one, instead of a curve, I'm going to keep that line kind of flat. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing over here. Now this one's really broad, so I'm going to actually make that angle really big just because I can. You got to look at each mouth that you draw because it's going to be slightly different. You have to look at each mouth that you draw to figure out what it is that makes it unique. How big are the pillows for that mouth? How wide is the line for that mouth? What direction do these lines go in? That's what you're looking for when you're drawing an actual portrait. For right now, I just want you to practice the steps. Okay, now this one's going to have a really deep bow because I haven't done one of those yet. I went a little outside my lines on that one for a reason. Okay, and this one, you know what? I want to do another deep bow because I've got mostly pretty shallows. I'm going to do pointed because it doesn't have to be a perfect curve. It can actually have a little bit of a point. Okay, so now we're going to just lightly kind of erase our pillows. We still want to see those muscles. There is a technical name for them. I don't remember it off the top of my head. You guys can always look it up. It's not like you don't have incredibly powerful little devices that you carry around in your back pockets like it's the most magical thing in the world. Use it to learn. It's amazing. Okay? I'm not going to go to the full shading extent. I'm not going to add the little contour lines, but I am going to add my basic shadow. I'm going to make my upper lip shade it out real fast. Whee! I'm going to do that for all of them. One of the things that you'll notice, guys, if you're paying attention, is that sometimes it doesn't look like lips at first. It takes a little bit for it to look like lips. That's true for pretty much all drawings that you do. I actually want to extend this line out a little bit more. Whee! That's true for pretty much everything you draw, not just lips. The noses yesterday, for a while there, they looked like little insects, right? Okay, and I'm going to add a light bottom shadow. I'm going to go up against the lip line and add my bottom shadow. I'm going to add some curvature. Do the same thing here. Add a little bit of shadow on my upper part of my lower lip, a little bit down here in these folds. Kind of curve these lines out a little. Add a slightly darker line down here. Slightly darker line up here, more shadowing. Now these are a little bit exaggerated. They're kind of caricature-y, and that's okay for practicing the designs. You guys get a little bit too befuddled by the simple structures, okay? Because I know this is all new techniques. I am going to add some contour. Just some really quick, soft. I want you to look at how lightly I'm drawing these guys. They're not huge. But you can create so much variety. And like I said with the eyes, and like I've said with the noses, it is actually easier to do variety when you're drawing them all at the same time and doing those steps all at once. Because what that gives you the opportunity is you can see the simple shapes and you can see where the variety is in each one of those steps, instead of waiting until the very end. Now the reason these look cartoony, one, is because I've got them a little bit exaggerated. Like you will run into lips like this, but probably not quite so extreme. Some of them are pretty realistic. This one's realistic, this one's pushing it. That's a little bit too much. This one's kind of realistic. This one might be pushing it a little bit. You'll run into people that look like this, but not very frequently. Do not forget the shadow underneath. It's kind of a big deal when it comes to the shading. Whee! Just having that slight shadow is what grounds it in your face. Just like putting a shadow under the nose helps it ground and look attached to the face. Having the shadow, which again, you can show variety here too by having all of these be slightly different shapes. I mean, look, this one's really wide, so I'm not going to have too much of a shadow here. That's actually too much of a shadow. Erase it! Erase! Control Z! Okay. But having multiple allows you to get that variety into the simple shapes. You're not going to have lines that are this dark. You're just not. Without a whole lot of lip liner. Or maybe it's a drag show, I don't know. Because they use a lot of lip liner, it's kind of fun. You're not going to have lines that are this dark. Your lines are going to be a lot more subtle. I'm just doing this for illustrative purposes. But I need 10 lips. You guys have until Monday. Get it done.